Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is KarQ. Welcome to the KarQ, the KarQ Archive channel, where it's a little bit more casual. What you see on the screen here is actually the tier list I made, a speculative tier list that I made back in late June in preparation for the Overwatch 2 Beta 2, like the second beta. Currently, the second beta has already ended by the time you're watching this, and there were a couple of patches that came in, including like the Doomfist buffs, Symmetra buffs, Moira necrotic orb changes, Zen nerfs, Sojourn nerfs, etc, etc. And I thought it'd be a fun video here to kind of review the final end state of the last beta and kind of shift some of the heroes around in terms of their tier list on their hero strengths and whatnot. This is just for fun, and you guys can let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So back in June, I rated Sojourn as S tier, and I was correct on that guess because she was, and she got a big nerf near the end. Oh, I wouldn't say big. Her fire rate went down, and I believe the projectile size now scales with her energy levels, and I still think she's a really great hero, but the projectile size of it at 0 energy, or 1 energy, excuse me, with the charge shot is significantly smaller, so it will be a lot more difficult to get those shots when it matters. It's not as forgiving. If you're a highly skilled Sojourn player, you probably wouldn't have even noticed those nerfs, but I still think she's really great, and I'm gonna actually leave her there. Zenyatta received a nerf at the end of that beta where they actually took down his 25 extra HP. Still a very strong hero, but not as great because that 25 extra HP seriously impacted damage breakpoints a lot, and he was really hard to kill if you ever dove into him. The definitely nerfed his survivability, but he is still an extremely strong hero, and that's why it's called Strong. Ana stays in Strong. She received no changes during that beta. Still a fundamentally sound hero. Baptiste as well also stays strong. Brig, I'm actually going to bring her down a little bit. I actually didn't see as much Brig near the end of it. I still have Brig as a pretty good hero. That being said, Brig was usually played with Brig Zen in Overwatch 1, and you could still run it here with Brig Zen in Overwatch 2, but it's not as necessary. Teams are actually opting for like Ana Zen sometimes, and in Overwatch 1, Ana Zen was absolute shit because they both needed each other, but with that support passive going in, they don't need to peel for each other as much. There's less divey flankers. Lucio's still a very good hero, despite nothing changed this beta, right? He's got two really strong playstyles. Solo queue, excuse me. A lot of teams are running Ana Lucio as well. You can still run Bap Lucio Rush. All that fun Rush comp still runs Lucio, and then solo queue Reddit style is very viable as well. And then Zen stays here, of course. You notice how like all the supports are up here? That's because I really think supports are really strong. I don't know why people were whining about supports being weak. They are incredibly strong, hence why they're in this category. Junkrat Queen received a little bit of a nerf. Her war cry, or I always call it war cry. Her commanding shout got a little nerf along with the range of her ultimate, but I still think she's a really good hero. She definitely falls down a tier depending on the map because she has inherent weaknesses as a close range hero by nature, but overall I still think she's a pretty good tank to play. Orisa, I actually missed the mark on the previous beta. I actually should have knocked her down here in the first beta, and then if that was correct, I would bring her back up to good now because she was severely underperforming when I first read the patch notes at the beginning of the beta. Being able to be headshot and Fortify is a serious nerf when they took that away, and they brought it back, so now she's tanky again. Also, armor got nerfed at the end of Overwatch 2, which meant Orisa was naturally going to get double nerfed if they didn't change the no headshot rule, but because they added that back, I'm going to keep her at good. Reinhardt also was nerfed slightly at the beginning of the beta with a little bit of HP distribution. Armor also got nerfed, but Reinhardt still stays as a good hero to play. I think Rein still beats out Junkrat Queen. Like Rein Brawl is still a really strong comp. He's still very map dependent, obviously. If there's too much high ground that he's playing into, you can't play him. Sigma, I actually think Sigma is low key. I'm going to actually bump him up to strong. He seriously surprised me because, well, number one, armor again got nerfed, and he doesn't have any armor. He's got 550 HP, and he's very self-sufficient, right? The rock is at extra damage now. I think it's at like 70 or whatnot. No, sorry, excuse me. I think it's back at 80, which means the double primary fire with 80, 60, 60 is a one-shot again on squishy heroes. If you land the rock, you destroy people. He's really good on Circuit Royale. He's played sometimes on push maps, I believe. I think Sigma is low-key one of the better tanks in the game right now. Winston actually got nerfed at the beginning of the beta. He was S tier in the first beta back in April, and he got knocked down to good after his nerfs, and I think he stays there. He's still a good hero to play. Wrecking Ball is also still a very good hero. That Boop, he's getting played a little bit in the Overwatch League now. He's very self-sufficient, can roll the health packs. Good hero overall. Zarya as well, she got a little bit of a nerf, I believe, at the beginning of this beta, but she's still strong on like certain push maps. She's still good on King of the Hill maps, that double bubble. Like if you're a good Zarya Zarya with good energy, you'll always be a good hero. And that bubble has so much usage and counterplay. Completely owns Junker Queen, by the way. If they play Junker Queen, you just play Zarya. You cleanse out all the bleeding. You just bubble any of her axe swings. She's such a good counter pick to that matchup. Cassidy, I actually thought he was good. I still think he's kind of good, but Wanted is kind of like pushing the idea that he's actually like as a hero and his damage is good, but like relative to the other DPS heroes, he doesn't think he's like as strong. I don't actually see as much Cassidy these days. Like he's obviously if the magnetic grenade hits, it's fantastic up close. He's good at closer ranges, but that damage fall off still kind of makes it suck on certain maps. So perhaps we'll knock him down a little bit of a peg. I'm basing this off of what Wanted said. I barely played DPS Cassidy this beta. Genji still stays up and good, although he isn't as popular anymore. They didn't change him at all really, but he's still a great dive hero to play. So Echo as well. She's just not a popular solo queue here, but she's played all the time in the Overwatch League. And I think with the viability of Mercy, which we'll get to later, with the final Guardian Angel iteration they added, made Mercy's movement really good, and it allowed people to play Mercy, which keeps Echo here. Hanzo's still a good hero if you can obviously hit your shots. Mei, I also think she's pretty good as well. I think people were surprised when they nerfed the freeze on her primary fire and thought she'd be trash, but I think if you guys try her a bit more, you wall people off, you still slow them, and the DPS on it is actually insane. Same with Pharah. Knockbacks are really strong in Overwatch 2. You'll notice like when you concussive or rocket jump, you go really far relative to the first game. I think it's like 10 or 20% further. They made it so her concussive does damage right now, and I actually think she's a pretty good hero, as long as they're not running any hit scans, of course. Reaper is still a pretty good hero to run and rush comps, but he's not as like in demand as he once was at the beginning of the beta. I think we'll just leave Reaper where he is in good. Same with Soldier. They nerfed his damage quite a bit, and I saw a lot less Soldier. That he just gets outshined by Sojourn. Obviously he's hit scan and Sojourn's projectile before she does her railgun like charge shot, but the projectiles on it fly so fast when you spam into like an Orisa, it's not like you're gonna miss anyways, and those projectiles feel pretty equivalent to like Soldier's damage. I mean, he's still a good hero. If you sprint onto good angles, he's fine. Tracer's still good if you're good at her. They still play her a shit ton in the Overwatch League. She's fine. Same with Widowmaker. If you can hit your shots, depends on the map, you're fine. I brought Brig down earlier. I already mentioned her. And now Moira received a very big change where they reworked her necrotic orb. Sorry, her damage orb into a necrotic orb. So she lost damage orb. She gained necrotic orb, which weakens enemies if you hit them. Does 50 damage, weakens them, so they do 75% less damage. And everybody overreacted. Just like how everybody overreacts with all the initial changes. What are they thinking? What are you smoking? And then you played a bit more, it's like, that's fine. Same with Junker Queen when she came out. Oh my god, what's Blizzard thinking? She heals so much. That's because you guys don't know how to play around new abilities yet. So like things will seem a bit overpowered at first, but once you learn how to play around it, it's not as crazy as you think. So the thing about necrotic orb is A, it's a skill shot. B, losing damage orb, and then she also received nerfs on her healing on the healing orb and her biotic grasp. Losing that actually lowers her ultimate charge tempo significantly. You're building coalescence or her ultimate, like I'm making this number up, like 20% slower than you used to. This may affect mostly the high elos, but you'll notice you'll mostly get off all your charge now from healing, and you won't be able to just chuck a random damage orb in the downtimes and get an extra 6-7% ult charge, which happens a lot, right? You just chuck a couple of damage orbs throughout the game and you're naturally building coalescence like 20% quicker. That loss there, and the necrotic orb is good if it hits and you do negate stuff. It's a harder lamp. Baptiste lamp. Baptiste lamp, you just look at the ground and, you know, around the area is immortal. But this one you have to aim too. I think she's viable, but losing that tempo, like once teams figure out you just wait for the necrotic orb cooldown, then they use their ult, she's not as scary as you think, to be honest with you. So I'm actually gonna knock her down as viable. With D.Va, I put D.Va in C tier at the beginning of the game, but I actually think she's up at good. Armor did get nerfed at the end, but that extra armor distribution at the beginning of the beta, I was always adamant that she was one buff away from being really, really good. And I misplaced her at the beginning. She's good. If you just kind of focus on one style that matches the play style of the team and the enemy team, it works, right? If you really need to play a peel-centric D.Va, sure. But if you really want to dive and just go in ham with like you're diving with Tracer Sombra or something, like she can really burst people with the micro missiles, and having that versatility and flexibility is good. I think in the first tier list video I said having too much flexibility, like jack of all trades, master of none, kind of like knocks her down a bit, but I think people have kind of figured out a style. We saw a lot of, I think the San Francisco Shock played D.Va a lot on Call Coliseum. Like she found a map where she's played at the highest level, and I think once people pick up on that, she's solid. Roadhog. I'm actually gonna knock Roadhog down. Like, dude, I like because Ana and Zen are like very meta right now, bro. What the fuck is Roadhog supposed to do against that? You get anti off cooldown, you get Discord orbed, you have no mitigation of damage at all. Like mitigation. Like you have self heal, sure. I don't know. I think Roadhog is in D tier. That's all I'm gonna say. Ashe, I'm actually gonna bump Ashe up. Ashe surprises me. I think she's better than Cassidy right now, just because of the, it's easier to hit a dynamite because it has range versus like people can play around magnetic grenade and never get close to him. But with Ashe, you can hit dynamites across the map. Getting a Bob in a fight is incredibly valuable in a 5v5. He is like pretty much another hero. You can control points, pressure people on sight lines, and Ashe has more like raw burst damage, right? So like at long ranges she can chunk as long as you're hitting them. Junkrat received a couple of buffs too, if I remember correctly. I actually think Junkrat's okay right now too. I wouldn't say he's like good by any means, but he's definitely more viable than previously. I put him in viable at first, but if there's a tier in between, I'd stick him there. Sombra, I'm gonna keep at C tier. Sombra impressed me at the beginning of the Overwatch 2 beta, and then once people like, again, people were like, oh my god, Sombra's S tier. And then she kind of was. She was really good. And then a couple of nerfs later, like she knocked down 2 tiers. I think they did that, and they might have to revisit and give her a slight buff again. Like she's good when she's good if she hits that EMP. But like you'll notice when you EMP an enemy like group, the Zenyatta just cast Transcendence like a second after. Let's say they increase the lockout to 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds after a hack or EMP, then she goes up considerably. But I don't think people want to play more like hacking, disabling. Roadhog, I moved him down to D tier. Doomfist got a buff near the end. I actually think Doom is like decent again. Like he doesn't have the slow, but it's less to power block now to get the charge punch, and then punch now deals damage when you hit multiple people. It always multi-punch and knock people back, but now they all take group damage. And he's also fun as hell. And he's like really important on like Paraiso, the Rio map. You know, that first choke is awful. You can just seismic slam up and try to multi-punch people off that high ground. So he's got a lot of uses. People are getting better and better with him every single day during the beta. And once people figure out the mechanics, I think, you know, like people already are figuring out all this cool tech, but when people really master it, he gets really strong really quickly. So he's a little finicky to balance. Bastion stays D. He's still always going to be a niche hero because of his ginormous hitbox, so he stays there. Same with Torb, although I'd argue Torb is actually a bit more viable than I give him credit for. Mercy also got she received 2 different iterations of Guardian Angel. The last one, well, the first one in the beta was what was the one where automatically super jumped, and I didn't like that. I don't think a lot of people like that. But this last one, where you're able to build up the meter and then charge in a current distance, makes the slingshot really cool. And I think as the days progress with the new Mercy, people were kind of growing into it, or like it started to grow on them, excuse me. And I think when people figure out that you don't have to look at your target, you can just go backwards, then strafe to the side, peek out, come back, peek out to the side. The super jump was a little bit more difficult because you have to like look up, or you can do the God's Wedgie super jump where you like look down and then your ass goes to the sky and do the reverse one. I think she's actually quite viable. It's hard to put her in good right away because she was still so new. People only had like a few days to play her, but we'll keep her in viable. And then finally, Symmetra received a few buffs at the end. Definitely made her a lot more less weak. It was just straight up buffs, 3 buffs or whatever to her. So I think just by that nature we'll bump her up to playable. And that eliminates the F tier. It literally means every hero is playable. Because if there's any, like, people go like, oh, I can't play this hero. Yes, you can. There's people who one trick any hero and any meta and any time and have hit like top 500 with it. You can theoretically play any hero and you'll be just fine. So tier lists are just speculative. This is just my opinion. That's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought near the end of the beta too. See if you agree with any of these, and I'll see you soon.